Yo, what's going on, guys? And today we're doing my mock draft. I actually haven't done as many mock drafts this year as I have done in years past. It's actually been because I work for Hoops Hype now. I'm actually doing a scouting reports for them. I've scouted so many people this year and gone to like Portsmouth and everything. Go check out hoopshype.com's scouting reports, and that's what I've written up. I mean, they were longer, but they made me do them shorter. Either way, let's just get right into this. Like and comment, subscribe. We're going to go right into this. And doing our first pick, I want to hear you guys' thoughts. We're just doing right now draft order with, what the standings were. So Pistons, then Wizards. So with the first pick, this one, I personally think the top two prospects in this draft potential-wise, and I would be drafting off potential if I had the top pick most of the time. But because I think the top two guys are Alex Sarr and Nikola Topic, I don't think either of those guys fit if I were the Pistons because they already have the center of their future. Unless you really think Alex Sarr and Jalen Duren can fit, then go for it. But I think this is a team that needs shooting. And if I was the Pistons, I would either trade down. Nobody would want to trade, so this would just suck because this is a bad draft. No one would want to trade. I would just take Zachary Richere, and Zachary Richere is a guy who I'm a fan of, but he's currently my third ranked prospect, as I think he has a really high floor. I think offensively he's in between Cam Johnson and Michael Porter Jr. Like, that's who he is offensively. He averaged 10 points, 3.5 rebounds, and assists a night. His dad was a French league all-star and won a silver medal with the French national team. He's a big wing forward, has a high release point. He can guard 2 through 4, but he lacks a creative flair for shot creation and playmaking. And defensively, he's not like an elite guy. Some people compared him to be like the French version of Matisse Buzelis, but I really think he's just like a better defensive version of Cam Johnson and Michael Porter Jr. And moves better than both those guys. And it's what the Pistons need. He fits next to Jalen Duren. He fits next to Asar Thompson and Jaden Ivey and Cade Cunningham, and the rest of the guys on this board do not fit next to those. So if I was then going to be the Wizards, we need a big man. Alex Sarr, 7'1". He's either going to be, worst comes to worst, I think I've said worst comes to worst, this guy's like Stromile Swift, which is still fine, but I really think worst comes to worst, he's just a shot blocking, rebounding big who's still good rotational, like borderline starter, but ceiling, he's a similar player like Jaren Jackson Jr. Maybe not the best rebounder, but he can score and he can shot blocks or block shots. So we need a big guy. I think he's just, you don't pass on someone who's 7'1" and can move the way that Alex Sarr can move. That's just my opinion as a Wizards fan, and I'm a Wizards fan, so I just think it makes the most sense at that position. The only other guy I would go is Nikola Topic if you really believe he can be the point guard that people think. Now, third, this is where it gets difficult, because if it's Portland, I think they would benefit from taking a guy like Cody Williams. And the reason for that is the other guys that I have here, or Ron Holland. Because outside, Stephen Castle, Reed Shepherd, and Donovan Clingan. So those were the next three prospects that would also, you would say, warrant going here. Maybe you throw in Rob Dillingham, Matisse Buzelis as guys who could potentially go here. But I think you don't go a guard because you have Shaedon Sharpe and Scoot Henderson as your backcourt. Your front court for the foreseeable future is either DeAndre Ayton or Robert Williams III. So if you take a big like Donovan, is he going to get playing time this coming season? I don't know. You don't really have a future wing. Cody Williams is J-Dub's younger brother. I kind of see him being closer to Patrick Williams than Jalen Williams. All right, if we're going to say that. And where he's just a prototypical size wing who's a low volume, high efficient offensive guy who can do a little bit of everything. Ron Holland's been compared to Jared Wallace. I think this team needs 3-point shooting, and I think taking a guy like Cody Williams would help them tremendously because they wouldn't be putting themselves into kind of like a linchpin. Now, we go into the Hornets. The Hornets have LaMelo Ball. The Hornets have Mark Williams. They also have themselves Brandon Miller. Who do you go with here? You get Ron Holland if you want the defense, which this team needs defense. If you want the shooting, you take Reed Shepherd. You don't take and the crazy thing is Topic is still the best player, but at this point you're drafting for fit. And you could take Rob Dillingham. I really think you either try to create a big, you got to go for the defensive guys. Either you hope Buzelis, who arguably could be, I think Buzelis is closer to Nick Batum, okay, while Ron Holland's closer to Gerald Wallace. Buzelis is going to help space the floor. But I don't know if he'll be able. I think Ron Holland, especially if they're going to get a guy like Charles Lee, I'm going with that Charlotte takes Ron Holland here. I think they need a defensive guy who's going to be a tone center. So you take here. Nikola Topic, the Spurs need a point guard. And I think at this point at 5, Serbian guy just makes sense. Now we look at the Raptors, and they're a team. I think they're going to keep quickly. I really think the wing is their weakest position. And at this point, I think a guy like Buzelis does fit what they would want to do there, especially with the idea of having like Bruce Brown. I mean, I could be wrong there, but they took a shooter in Grady Dick last year. I think Buzelis gives them a two-way guy. And they have Jakob Poeltl, so it doesn't make sense for them to go and get Donovan Clingan. Now, the Grizzlies are on the clock. I'm a huge Santi Aldama fan, but I don't know if it's really worked there, and they do kind of need a power forward. All right, but the best players on the clock right now are Clingan, Dillingham, Reed Shepherd, Dalton Connect, and Castle. One might say they do need a wing player, and that's where I go. This team wants to win now, and the best player right now that in terms of pro readiness that would help the Grizzlies would be Dalton Connect. So at 7, I'd take Dalton Connect because he's plug and play in between, Desmond Bane, John Morant, and Jaren Jackson Jr. being 22, turning 23. You need a guy like that. They can't wait for any of the other guys to develop. Now Utah's on the clock. They have their front court set with Walker Kessler, Lauri Markkanen. This is another team that needs a wing player or a guard because they have Chris Dunn and going into free agency. Is Keontae George a true point guard? Are they going to keep Colin Sexton? I really think a guy like Stephen Castle fits here. Being a Danny Ainge. I mean, Danny Ainge, if we look back, has not really drafted guards early like this. And even bigs, he hasn't drafted like this. So knowing Danny Ainge, he's either going to take Jacoby Walter or Castle. Castle's a point guard, but one might say that Castle could moonlight as a swing man who's a point wing. Maybe like a Tyreek Evans. Now, is there enough shooting? I think you go with Jacoby Walter here because he comes from Baylor. He's going to give you three-point shooting. You hope that he can get some defense. He's 6'5". He can be hopefully a swing man. I think with Castle, if you bring him, you take the ball out of Keontae George's hands. And that if you believe in Keontae George as much as this team says they have, you wouldn't take Stephen Castle. Now you're on to the Rockets. This is where it gets tough. The Rockets are a team that they have their front court set with Jabari, Alperen, Steven Adams, and Tari Eason, Jeff Green, whatever they do with Jock Landale and Boban. I think this is where a guard would go. Now, do we go with Castle when I think they got Thompson last year, so I don't think they want to do that. Do they go with Robert Dillingham when he doesn't provide defense and he's probably doesn't fit the type of guy that Mr. Ime Udoka wants? And at 9 right here, this is where it gets tough for me because I think the idea of a Reed Shepherd goes well here because he tries on defense, and if they want 3-point shooting, you would go with a guy like that. Now, Atlanta at 10. They took Kobe Buffkin last year. I think, are they sold on Clint? I think you take Donovan Clingan. If he's fallen to 10 right here, regardless of what happens to Clint Capella, and I know they re-signed Onyeka Okongwu, this makes it easier to move on from Capella. You now move forward to Onyeka as the starter with Clingan as the backup. The Bulls at 11. You assume they're going to move on from Zach LaVine. And we don't know what's going on with Alonzo Ball. Does this team have a point guard of the future? Is it Kobe White the point guard? Is that where we're going to go? If that's the case, do you go with a microwave to replace the scoring that Zach LaVine's going to leave you in Dillingham, but you're going to be a bit undersized? Or do you go with a winner in Stephen Castle, who can also be a guard for you? I think Castle fits the profile of what they've drafted in the past, so I would go with Castle. OKC's on the clock here, and OKC is a team that I think they want size, and I think they would really like the idea of bringing in Kyle Filipowski, because at this point, this would give them Chet, Jay Will, and Kyle Filipowski as their 3 front court players, and I think they really would like the idea of that. Now, Malik Monk might be on the move, so at 13, if the Kings are right here, I'm taking Robert Dillingham to replace Malik Monk, and I don't think that would be too bad of a plan. We took Cody Williams earlier with the Blazers' first pick. I think right here, if you're the Blazers, the guy you should go here is Tajon Saloon. Okay, he's 6'10". He's an absolute dynamo. He's a guy that I think personally has a chance to be one of the. I know he might have. I don't know what his floor would be, but his body right now very similar to Rui Hachimura with way more athleticism. He's a high motor guy who plays both ends of the floor. And for me, some people have him off the board by 5. Some people have him off the board by 20. I think he's a guy who would go into the lottery right here, being at 14. He's somebody that he's got massive hands, huge arms, a big body, great frame. One of the things is he's not a great rebounder or shot blocker and needs some better defensive work, and he has a negative assist to turnover ratio. But this is a crapshoot draft. You take it right here because it's a position of need for the Blazers. The Heat. This is where you probably see like a guy like either Devin Carter or Tristan Da Silva or Kevin McCullough. I mean, I know some people don't like Kevin McCullough. I didn't get great feedback from some people. And when you look at this team, I think guard help is the biggest thing that they need. But I think you look at Devin Carter and you go like, okay, gives them a point guard of the future. Or you look at Tristan, he gives them a power forward that they don't really have. But you think, well, Jimmy moves up. You still have Duncan. You still have Ty. Oh my God. It's like, I'm going right here. Devin Carter, because he's a two-way guy. Averaged 20 points, 4 assists, 9 rebounds. This just screams. And he's a former NBA player guy. A former NBA player's son. I think that's where you just got to go with him. Now, on the clock right here, Orlando. This is where it gets difficult. Markelle Fultz is on his way out. This team needs shooting. I think Jared McCain, people have said he's like a better Seth Curry. And I could see that. And I just can't see them going with a Kevin McCullough or a Bub Carrington here. I think you got to go with the shooting. You got to go with the shooting, and that's Jared McCain. It's crazy to see. I don't mean to make Isaiah Collier or Zach Edey or Tristan Da Silva fall this far, even though it's only 16 and these guys can still go. The Raptors are back on the clock, and this is where it gets difficult. Where did the Raptors see? I think right here the Raptors do take Tristan Da Silva or Tyler Smith. I think they're retooling, and again, they took a wing earlier. I think they need a power forward. I think or do you go? I just think if they take Collier, too many cooks in the kitchen. Da Silva just fits more naturally, and being a guy who can move the ball, play efficiently, I think he's just kind of a plug and play guy, and that's kind of who Masai Ujiri wants. While over here, you got free agents in Jonas Valanciunas, and this is actually where I could see either Zach Edey or Yves Messi going. I think a big goes here for the Pelicans, so they don't have to spend it in free agency. The whole thing is I think they got to go with the Zach Edey right here because they are a win now team. They can't wait for Messi. Messi could be better than Edey in the long run, but they don't have time to wait for him. Now, the 76ers are here, and I think this is a team that would take Kevin McCullough. You get a guy who's going to help you win now. He's going to be an impact defender day one, and you don't know what's the roster going to look like next year. All right, the Cavs are on the clock, and this is a one where it gets interesting. I think they're here potentially getting another wing guy, or they could go with a power forward. I mean, if they see Tyler Smith as a combo forward in the same lines as PJ Washington, then you go with a Tyler Smith. But if you want shooting or defense, this is where it gets hard. So we're right now at 20, right? I believe, yeah. So on my board right here, Yves Messi, Ryan Dunn, Johnny Furphy. That's dude. I could be the guy right here that they could consider, or Keyshawn George or Dylan Jones. But I think we're gonna go right here with a Johnny Furphy, because I think right now they need a small forward who can come in, but using a defensive guy. Oof. Do you go with that, or do you go with the whoa, fucking Christ. Yeah, so with the Cavs, it makes the most sense for them to go ahead and take Ryan Dunn. And for me, I mean, it just right here, you take Dunn, replaces Okoro, you don't have to pay him. Now, Pelicans are back on the clock, and we already took Zach Edey as their guy, and now you're looking at the rest of the roster. Najee Marshall might be on his way out, and this is a team that you could say they don't really have a combo forward, and I think this is like where a guy like Tyler Smith or a Keyshawn George, and depending on how Keyshawn George does in the testing, because Najee Marshall plays the small forward, power forward for them. If Keyshawn George comes in more of a small forward, power forward than a small forward shooting guard, he could go there, because they already have a small forward shooting guard in Trey Murphy. Now they need that to replace Najee Marshall. As we don't know that, I'm going to say Tyler Smith seems more like the guy that they could go right here, as he fits their athletic like traits that they're looking for. Now here, this is where it gets tough. This is a team that a big would maybe be like a big like Yves Messi or a Kel'el Ware. I wouldn't be surprised. Like Kel'el Ware really could be the guy that they want, because he fits next to, and he kind of goes perfect. And as I sit here, there isn't a shooting guard or a shooting player that's overwhelming that's still on the board that you would take. Because like where I look right here, the best players available at this point are Bobby Clintman, which he could be their front court player, but he would take the ball out of the hands of too many of their players, and I don't think defensively he fixes what they need. But also clear where they need more perimeter defense in a way, so you could also see them go after a guy like Jalen Tyson. But this is where it gets definitely difficult. I think they'll go after Kel'el Ware, because they saw what Derek Lively did, and having an idea of Brook Lopez and Kel'el Ware as their rotation maybe allows them to move off of Bobby Portis's contract for more of a two-way guy. Now here, I think this is Isaiah Collier falls to the Suns. The Suns need a guard who can go crazy off the bench, and that's what Collier's going to give them. Now, we're at the Knicks. I think the Knicks are going to go for a gritty guy. We got ourselves in free agency right now. Precious Achiuwa is going to be a free agent. And there is also Isaiah Hartenstein. I think this is where Yves Messi falls to the Knicks at 24. So they don't have to re-sign Hartenstein. And then the Knicks are back on the clock at 25. And like we said, who else do they have as a free agent? Isaiah Hartenstein is the big one. And then after that, I mean, technically Precious Achiuwa is going to be a free agent. So they could go for a power forward guy. And I could see a guy like Bobby Clintman also being an insurance policy for Julius Randle, being the guy that they go right there, because he's coming from the NBL. He has some playing experience. Now at 26, the Wizards took Alex Sarr. Again, I think this is a potential pick. And looking at the guys available here, I say the best players available right now on the board, the best player in my opinion is Keyshawn George, and I think that might be the pick that they take, because we just need bodies at every position. And I mean, Ulrich Tremonchi could be the guy that they take if they want. I know Pakomi Daditz is another guy that's flying upwards, but there isn't anybody left on the board that's like an overwhelmingly like high potential guy that you want to swing at. So for me, I look at this board and I think you take Keyshawn George as, I mean, you could take Bub Carrington, but I don't think he's going to get the touches that we would want him to get as a first year player. So for me, I don't think they touch him. Now over here, Minnesota's on the clock, and when you look at their board, Monte Morris is going to be an expiring contract. So is Jordan McLaughlin, and this gets you wondering. I think they're a team to take Tyler Kolek. They don't know if they're gonna have a backup point guard. They need a backup point guard, so they take him. I think right here, Denver's on the clock. They've done a good job of evaluating talent, and they either need a backup point guard or they're gonna need, to get a wing player for the future, because Contavious Caldwell-Pope could be a guy that in the future they might not want to re-sign. Reggie Jackson's going to be an expiring. I mean, if they believe in Colin Calypso, I think you either take Bub Carrington right here, who's 6'5", or you take Johnny Furphy. I think they drafted the wing players last year, so I think Bub Carrington's going to be the guy they take here to replace Reggie Jackson down the road. Then Utah right here, I think they're a team that takes... there isn't really a pure point guard here, and they took Jacoby Walter earlier. And they could be a team that takes, Dylan Jones, but I think the team with the 30th pick is, and they have the 32nd pick, so if they want to go a point guard in the second round, I think they can. I think they take Johnny Furphy here to help them get some more size and shooting. And then with the last pick of the first round, I think this is Dylan Jones going to Boston. Boston wants a body like that to, replace what Grant Williams was for them. And then here we can go through what I think the rest of the draft's going to look like. Again, Raptors this is going to be a little quicker. Jalen Tyson, they're retooling. They want to be good quicker, so they'll take a bit of an older guy. Here, I think this is going to be the interesting one, because I don't think they have another pick right here, Utah, and I think they want a point guard. So at this point, I could see them being the team that takes DJ Wagner, who I have him at like 31 right now. Some people are lower on him, but I think he's going to be a guy who climbs up boards. KJ Simpson and Juan Yunus are other guys who could go at that point. Right here, we've taken Tajon Saloon and Cody Williams. This is, do you want to go big right here? I think they go Ethan Almanza right here. That's a high potential pick. Over here, they took a Khalil Ware. I think here you take a guard. Terrence Shannon, Payne Stanford, Baylor Shireman, and Harrison Ingram are all guys that I could see Milwaukee being interested in. And when you look around, I think they want to go with a pro-ready guy here, and they took a big already. I could see this where a guy like a Jay Mitchell really climb up the board and go to a team because he's a veteran-ready guy. Over here, you took Nikola Topic earlier. I think you need just what you... Again, I think shooting is huge here. But I don't know. I think a Melvin Ajinsha. They go very Euro in this draft. I'm going to go with. They bring in a Frenchman to help for Wemby to have a French guy on the roster. The Pacers. The Pacers are going to have a free agent and Doug McDermott. I think shooting right here, and I think they're going to go with Payne Sanford out of Iowa. Older guy. I think ready to shoot. Here, I think we need a wing player. I don't know what's going on with Terrence Shannon. He's a good player. If he falls to the Timberwolves right here, they're going to like a guy like that. Knicks right here. I could see him going after... they already went after They went after Bobby. They went after Yves Messi. Do we have any other positional needs? I guess a point guard. Juan Yunus, is he a dog enough for Mr. Tom Thibodeau? You need to get a guy who's a dog on defense, and there ain't any dogs really like that are gonna blow you out the water in terms of their physicality at this point in the draft. It has tuned down a little bit. AJ Johnson's a guy who's flown up the boards. So he's supposedly 6'7" now. He's got first round grades. I'm going to put him right there as a guy that people would want. Now, we got back to the Desmond Bane and the Grizzlies. This is a team still wing front court. We had them take Dalton Connect. Again, I think they are going to take a veteran guy. They already took a wing player, so I think it's either a front court player or it's going to be a power forward. I don't like any of the centers available. Deron Holmes does intrigue me because you think he'll play he can play this. I think they take Deron Holmes here. So that's one right there. Now we're back to the Blazers. At this point, I'm going to take Juan Nunez because I think he's the best player at on the board, and he can give you. Juan Nunez can give you an idea of a backup guard that could help elevate. I think Baylor Shireman at this point goes with the Sixers, just more shooting, gives them some space. Here, you took Ron Edwards. Or is the point guard market if you want a backup? I think, KJ Simpson's a very good backup for LaMelo, I think, right there. Oof. You took Devin Carter. I like the idea of Harrison Ingram here. I'm trying to think of a... Trevon Brazil maybe could be a guy they want, but I think they want just shooting. And that's where I'm going to go with... I'm going with Harrison Ingram right here to the Heat. It just makes sense. He can be like a connecting player. Then for the Rockets, with their pick, I like Hunter Salas out of Wake Forest. I think this is a good one right here. Sacramento, I think they need bodies. They take Justin Edwards, replace Kessler Edwards. This pick has been forfeited, so we're going to just take somebody that's probably not going to get drafted. No offense. Let's go there. Okay, San Antonio. If they're back on here, let's get someone to jump out the gym behind them, and if Bona stays in the draft, we'll do that. They need a guard. They've needed a guard for a while. I like the idea of Trey Alexander. Is there a better shooting guard in there? No. So we're going to do Trey Alexander at this range. Tristan Newton could be a guy, but I think they want the shooting. We've taken Jared McCain earlier. This could be a wing, or... I do like the idea of Pally Larson at this point. We're at 49. Pacomi Diate could have gone at this point. Maybe we do go Pacomi. Replace Chuma. The potential to get some more size. They love that size. Out here, this feels like kind of feels like the pick the Brazil to the Pacers. That kind of just feels like a pick that they would make. I don't think Chimanchi's getting drafted, so I'm not putting him in there. If Onyenso's in here, I say we just draft him because we had no backup bigs and he's just young and he's a body. I think the Pacers if they do take these picks, I think again they're valuing shooting. So Pelle Larson at that point makes sense. I think there isn't an elite guard available. The Cam Spencer kind of makes... I think they take Cam Spencer right here. They have Pat on the roster. They get his brother. Kind of makes sense to me right there. It's a second round pick. What do they have to lose? You take Keyshawn Johnson right here. What do you have to lose right there if you're the Pistons? Boston. Jackson Robinson is a kind of like a toolsy guy that makes sense. Gives them a wing player that they need. Lakers at this point, if they even keep this pick, Jalen Bridges would be a guy who can actually come in and play right now for them if they realistically wanted. So I take him right out here. Who's been a guy that the Nuggets would swing at. Depends who stays in. I mean, they took Carlton, Carrington. I could see him taking a front court guy to replace Zeke Nanji down the road, and Ryan Kalkbrenner could be that guy. Over here, I don't think Caravan's staying in the draft, but if a team were to draft him, it would be them. I don't think Chimachi's getting drafted, but the pick's forfeited, so we're just doing that. So right here with the last pick in the draft is the Dallas Mavericks. Dude, this is a hard one. Who would they? They'll take Grant Nelson. He has no eligibility, but like he's a freak athlete, and he kind of screams what they would want. So this is it. Ignore, I believe the picks that are forfeited is the pick with Jumanji, and then there's somewhere else. There's another pick. I think the pick for the Kadari Richmond. So those are two forfeited picks. There's only 58. Let me hear your thoughts. 31-minute video. Damn.